You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Happy Tuesday. We are back and doing it. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. I am your man on the ground, Isaiah Hole, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. We are going to do two things. I want to talk about the addition of the flag that was planted at midfield after the Ohio State game in the Schembechler Hall Towsley Museum. A lot of people have asked me, when will the museum be open again to the public? I don't know, man. It's currently not. I don't know that it... I'm sure at some point the museum will be open again to the public. But as of right now, it is not. Nonetheless, there's a lot of different things that have happened in the museum, from the picture of Michi, the famed one of Jim Harbaugh pushing him across the end zone, to a bunch of other murals that it's all completely different. They're completely changing everything. So we'll get to that first. And then I specifically, for the sake of doing this show, did like a very quick thing on Wolverines Wire. The top 10 quotes from Jerome Moore and Jesse Minter. I decided to do that just strictly because I thought it would make my life easier than trying to go off of memory. So I was like, okay, what quotes are my favorite? I'll pick 10. So we'll go through at least some of the quotes and then we'll react to them in segments 2 and 3. So let's start off, though, with the flag. I think it is awesome. It is amazing. It definitely gets under the skin of Ohio State people. I was the first person, I think. It might have been David from Mason Brew, but I think I might have been the first to post the picture of it. David, I walked in, David was already taking a picture of it, and he was the only other person there when I got to the press conference. So I took the picture, I posted it online, and there are very few Buckeye people responding, but I saw one thread where it's just a guy jarring back and forth with Michigan people, and it's just under his skin very clearly. He tries to make it look like, oh, you silly guys, you win 2 in a row, and you lose your minds and everything. And some people point out, like, don't you have a whole like countdown clock? They have more than that. They basically have a whole shrine to the game and ways to their wins over Michigan. And as many people pointed out, they go and cross out all the M's. They do all kinds of stuff. Michigan's only now starting to do stuff like that, right? They weren't, and that was troubling to me. As I've said, I've referenced a bunch of times. I did a whole show on it about the maniacal Manchurian Candidate style in which Ohio State prepared for Michigan coming out of the Urban Meyer era. This was Ryan Day's first year. He was really impressive at Big Ten Media Days, and I talked to these players, and they were wound up for Michigan all year long. Michigan didn't do anything. They didn't care. They were very much like, well, Ohio State's a game on the schedule. Now, if you walk into Schembechler Hall, it's completely different. They have all these murals on the wall, which are pictures that Aaron Bills took, and it's just a big collage up near the ceiling in the one area, and then down by the desk, there's by the front desk, the whole side is that as well. And then they have this display unit that's always been there, but it wasn't, they've been kind of slowly changing it. It used to just be some wood and some glass and say, like, I think it's like a Michigan man, like, saying or something like that. But it wasn't really anything. It looked very just blasé. Well, that has been overhauled, and when you walk in, I believe memory serves as like, it's great to be a Michigan Wolverine, and it's an image of Mike Barrett running with the flag, and it says that over top of it, and then you have mannequins on either side wearing the 2021 and 2022 jerseys, full with like the patch. They had the Tate Meyer patch from after the Oxford tragedy on the 2021 one, and then they had the Michi patch on the 2022 one. That makes sense again because they won the Big Ten championships both of those years. But you look around and most of the highlights is on the back side of that big stand there in which there's the mannequins on either side, is the picture, the group picture of everyone in front of the flag. And there's just lots of pictures from the Ohio State game, some from the Big Ten championship games, I believe it was both. Maybe it was just the one. But there is a lot there. And now they have the flag in there, which Jim Harbaugh even said at one point, like, I'd like to find that flag and put it in the museum. Mission accomplished. I mean, it certainly wouldn't have been that hard, but I mean, I'm sure the flag belonged more to the cheer team than it did the football team. And you can tell it's the same one just by virtue of there's like some things with the pole, like some tape wrapped around and some writing on it, and just like some, different patina and such. And it's sitting between the 2022 mannequin and that picture of Michael Barrett holding the flag. So you can look at the flag in the picture, and then you can look at the flag in person. And you know what? I just love this level of petty. I mean, it's not really petty. It's celebrating an accomplishment. We'll get to that in a moment, but certainly that's the type of thing that you would want to put in a museum. But I think it becomes more of a petty situation because people get so upset. I heard from some Buckeye friends, including now my one boss. He doesn't really say he's actually not an Ohio State fan anymore, but he grew up an Ohio State fan, and I remember talking to him after the game, and he was very upset about the flag planting. Very upset about it. So what's better than to have that exact thing in the museum, right? For that to be remembered forever. Whatever happens from now, Michigan wins 100, loses 100. I mean, that was a seminal moment for this Michigan team because hadn't won in Columbus in 20 years. No one was giving them a chance, myself included. I mean, I gave them a chance all year long until Blake Corum got injured the week before, but, I was still wrong. And there was only, I think, like 2 people that picked Michigan to win regardless. But no one was thinking that Michigan had a chance. So it was a seminal moment. It should be celebrated, and it's perfect. And I love that they're finally embracing the rivalry and all that it means. So it's very cool. All right, let's move on. We're going to get into what my 10 favorite quotes the coordinators had on Tuesday. We got both of them for the first time since the college football playoff against TCU. Last time we talked to them was at the media days for the Fiesta Bowl the day before. So cool to finally get them again. So we're going to get to that momentarily. Before we do that, the tournament is heating up, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. That's because right now FanDuel is giving new customers a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. It's up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon and sign up today to claim your no-sweat first bet. Then you can wager on everything from the money line to point spreads to which team will be cutting down the net, all in an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. So don't miss your shot at a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. Make every moment more with FanDuel. All right, so I compiled my 10 favorite quotes, and it might seem like that's the entirety. It's not. Like we had Jesse Minter for about 21 minutes and Jerome Moore for about 14 or so. So this is really just compiling things down. Anyone who's read the first 2 is going to be really upset if they go to this article, just because there's no commentary. It's just the quotes. And I did it strictly for this podcast, just to make my life easier and make it easier for you guys to digest instead of me just rambling as I do. I'll still ramble. Don't get me wrong. I'll still completely ramble, but maybe there will be less. That's the hope and that's the goal. All right. So the first quote that and these are in no particular order. I didn't mention that. They're not ranked. They're just 10 quotes. So the first ones I compiled both of them because they got both asked what they thought of the flag. And so I figure we'll lead that off. Again, knowing that I was going to talk about the flag planting and the that being in the museum, thought it was it's a nice little segue. Sometimes one hand feeds the other. So Jerome Moore, he said, love it. I love seeing that. Think about the game every day. Think about every moment. When you walk in the building, you see it as soon as you walk in. Obviously, you see all the things about the rivalry and what it is, but you think about that every day. So it's constantly on my mind. It's constantly on the players' mind, and we're always preparing for it. And he was asked further, and he said, like, yes, it motivates us to win again. We see, being able to go in, because it's across the way from where they walk in, right? Like, so there's a front desk that separates, and there's a player's entrance, and then there's the museum entrance. So the coaches and the players, they go through the one entrance, but it's open. So it's just a front desk that separates. You can, when they walk in, they just look to the left, and there it is in all of its glory. And so he was saying, like, walking in and seeing that, it's a reminder of what our goals are. It's a reminder to stay motivated, to try to get that third in a row, not to get complacent. What's at stake? All of that. I think what Jesse Minter said actually really puts it into perspective. And it's hard if you're an Ohio State fan to get super mad at what he had to say. He said, I think it's really cool. I mean, that's what makes college football special, is rivalries and the ability to enjoy those moments and enjoy the significance of those wins. I really think about the defense being together, going into the fourth quarter and watching a player-led defense like take charge of that game and make the plays we needed to make to win the game. Plays we needed to make to win the game. So super, super great memories, and trying to work every day so we can have a bunch of those again next year. So they're basically just treating it like a trophy, because there isn't a trophy in the game. I mean, certainly there's things like, Ohio State players get the gold pants if they win. Michigan players now get like a medal, or, it's like a insignia and it's got a whole bunch of stuff on it. But it's a bragging rights thing. And I think that puts it into perspective, where he's like, it's the ability to enjoy those moments and just remember that big moment. That's all it is. It's nothing more. But certainly, people will act like, just like as Scott Bell pointed out on Twitter, Brady Hoke apologized for the Joe Bolden steak in the Michigan State field. I'm not going to go into detail about it, but because he asked me not to. But Joe Bolden talked to me about that and was very annoyed by that whole situation, because it wasn't meant. Like, he didn't realize in that moment, he was just fired up, but he brought that not to pay disrespect to Michigan State, but because it was something that was like an internal thing, and it was like it was less to do with Michigan State and more to do with Michigan, is the best way I can put it. And I don't remember the conversation that great, to be honest, but it's something. I don't know. It's something like that, I guess. I don't know. I digress. Number 2, Jesse Minter discussed incoming edge rusher Josiah Stewart. What have you seen from him? He said Josiah is a tremendous addition. First of all, just from his personality and fit into the culture, the way he works, the way he attacks things. It's like he's been here. So when that happened, you pick up a guy that, one, he practices really hard. He's got a really unique skill set. He's different than one of our edge rushers with his measurables, than some of our edge rushers with some of his measurables. So he's just really excited about him, and he's had a productive spring. I think if he talked to some, if I was supposed to say you, I messed that up. If you talk to some of our guys, they would say he stood out at times, and looking forward to seeing that on Saturday in more of a game environment and seeing that in the fall as well. So I am increasingly excited for him, and I like that it's the idea of it's a guy that does something different than who they already have provides. And Michigan needs all the edge rushing talent. Now, he did also talk about the interior pass rush, because they are putting an onus on that. And he said, like, you know what? We just feel like we can get a lot more out of it. And there's, he was asked about Mozzie Smith, and like, is him not being there, does that change how you do this run, the run defense and the pass defense? He's like, no, I think we've got guys that can do it. And Coach Elston and Dylan Roney, like all those guys all working together. He's like, we'll get it done. We'll get better. He's like, we had good numbers last year, but they will be better this upcoming season. It's encouraging. Number 3, Jerome Moore discusses standout early enrollees on offense. This is from 2 different questions, but so he mentioned a couple different guys. So here we go. The first one was from my question, the first two paragraphs here. Not that you're going to be able to note the paragraphs and me talking, and the third one was from a different question. It said, first of all, the guys have been great additions from a culture standpoint, just a great fit. Love the guys, love all the kids. Okay, whatever. That's all. Well, just go right to the second paragraph. Amir Herring, just to watch him grow, just to learn the system and see what he's doing. He's been really good. Really, really excited about these young receivers to see what they do. And they're just like little puppies out there. They're just full of energy, full playmaking ability. We're just excited about that. So the next question was about the running backs, who's been kind of working there. And the first name out of his mouth, well, he was asked more specifically about Benjamin Hall and CJ Stokes, but he was asked about how those guys are doing, and he immediately, he goes, Ben Hall. We knew he was a good back. He showed some things that obviously Mike, as in Mike Hart, knew. Mike does a great job recruiting and evaluating guys, and he's a guy that wasn't very, very highly ranked, but he walks in the building. His legs are giant. They're huge. He's built. Remember, I told you about his legs. I've been saying it. He's always in there. You've got to kick him out. He's always walking around with a water bottle with his headphones on and just always locked in, focused. And he goes on the field. He runs like a train. So excited to see him and his progress. So I'm count me in to being excited about Benjamin Hall. Less excited about Amir Herring because we probably won't see him for 3 or 4 years. Maybe sooner, but I mean, there's just so many guys waiting in the wings. Of course, he's the offensive line coach as well. He's going to mention him. The receivers as well, it just sounds like that they're going to be involved. Then again, that's how they talked about the trio from last year. They really kind of weren't. But I kind of feel like they will be this year. I just do. So that's exciting. All right, we got 2 more quotes here in this half here, this segment. I asked Jesse Minster what he learned from the TCU game, and I expound upon, like, all season long, the narrative was the second half, you shut teams down. That didn't happen in the TCU game. Looking back, what have you learned? He said, you either win or learn. And so it's been a great opportunity to study. Always look inward first, and things in preparation, things in game plan. So there's a lot of things that after the fact are sometimes simple to say, like, yeah, maybe we should have done this or done more of this or done less of that. But ultimately, it comes down to doing all the little things right and those moments. And so learned a lot about that. Learned the goal now is to get back to that situation. And talk is cheap. So we've got to get back to that situation and prove that we did learn from it. And so excited to try to do that. Now, there wasn't any specifics. I obviously hope for specifics, but you never expect to get that, nowadays. Maybe in the first year of Jim Harbaugh or, George Hilo's first couple press conferences, you'd get some specifics. You're not going to get that anymore from either coordinator. But at least it sounds like, okay, we took this seriously and we know what we need to do. We need to get back there and then prove that we know what we're doing. Okay. And like he said, talk is cheap, so show me. That's it. Right now we're at, we're not even a pitchers and catchers report. It might be spring ball, but we're a long ways off from the season. We still got 5.5 months ish. Number 5, finishing out this segment, the offensive plan. Sherrone Moore was asked about, with JJ throwing a bunch more times in the TCU game, if that is an indication of kind of what's to come, and if there's going to be a lot more passing. And he talked about it a couple times, but this is the more important quote in my eyes. Fans aren't going to like it, and he's basically telling you where you can go if you don't like this. But this is what he said. He said, we want to be balanced. We want to be able to do both. Really, the division is what our players are good at, what JJ wants to throw. How we're going to attack the defense every week is going to change. There will probably be a game where we'll run the ball more and people will be mad at us. And if it helps us win, we'll be okay with it. So really, it's about winning. Whatever we've got to do to win, that's what we're going to do. We're not going to value the opinions of people that don't understand what we're doing. We're going to do whatever it takes to win. So whatever it is in that game, if it's throw pass, we're going to do. So that's the vision, and built it around our players. I mean, that's the right call, except for I hope that they don't treat the first 3 games where they could have more balance as a showcase for the running backs like they have really the last 2 years. They need to get JJ kind of going, so that you know that he's feeling good. Granted, they started trying to get him going late mid-season against Rutgers. That's when they kind of started it. Wasn't really going well against Illinois. Granted, Illinois had Devin Witherspoon, and he was really good. And then Ohio State came, and no one thought he could do it, and he did it. So that's good. Slung it around a little bit against Purdue. Really slung it around against TCU to mixed results. But you need to make sure that he feels more comfortable so that you aren't in that situation. So I agree. If running the ball makes sense, they're going to run the ball until someone stops it. Passing makes sense. They're going to pass the ball until someone stops it. But he said they want to be balanced. They just have to be balanced. All right. We've got 5 more quotes. We'll get to those here in just a moment. Second straight night, late podcast, 9:16 at night. Not trying to do it this way, but with the press conference and getting stuff ready, I got my house signing, my closing tomorrow, signing of the stars. Kind of, not really. All right, Jesse Minster was asked both about, I can't remember, Ernest Hausman and Braden McGregor. I felt like the Braden McGregor one, I felt like singling that out. So I didn't put the whole thing in here. I just went with the Braden McGregor. So he says, Braden McGregor, man, there's a guy that when you talk about the process of development, everybody's sometimes on a different trajectory. There's sometimes injury related, confidence related, people in front of you related. And so he's had a career here where dealt with injuries, dealt with the number 2 pick in the draft being in front of him as an Aiden Hutchinson, other guys. And so I think he's trusted the process here and he's continued to develop at a really fast, high rate, especially coming off of what he's dealt with prior. And so I'm really, really excited about Braden. I think he has a chance to be a dominant player. And I think the challenge for him is he does it in spurts. And he knows this. And it's time to take over a game. He knows this is to take over a game. And he has that capability. And so I'm excited to see that happen. It's funny reading the quotes is I have everything exactly the way it was said in some cases. And I try to clean it up. And sometimes I forget. I'm like, challenge for him is he does it in spurts. And I think the challenge, I forget to clean it up. Oh, well, that's on me. That echoes exactly what Braden McGregor actually said to us earlier in spring. It was, hey, I know the challenges that I've faced. I know what I'm capable of. I've been streaky. I just need to learn to do it all at once. So if you have both saying the same thing, I doubt Jesse Minter's sitting there poring over what Braden McGregor said in media availabilities and same vice versa. That basically established itself as truth, right? That's the thing. And the fact that he says he knows he can take over a game. I know he can take over a game. That's the next step. Take it over. Become that dominant player because you have that in you. And that's what Michigan needs, especially from him. So I'm excited to see if that works out. Up next, Jerome Moore, living the dream. Now that he's the sole offensive coordinator, he was asked, what's different? He kind of asked this a couple different times and didn't really want to answer, and he kind of answered this one. He said there's a little bit more work involved because you're looking at every single piece of it. I did the same thing last year, so there's not too much difference. Just beyond game days, the play calling will be a little different because obviously he's the sole play caller. He wouldn't say how much he called the plays last year. He wouldn't divulge that. It's still a big secret for some reason. To me, I see it all the same just because I always have a watchful eye of everything that's going on. So I just try to delegate a little bit more, which has helped. But I have a great staff to do that. So it's been awesome, especially with Kirk, as in Kirk Campbell, and the guys have been phenomenal. So I don't come in here and work at all. It's fun for me. This is just too much fun for me. I live a dream right now. So I'm just going to continue to grind as hard as I can and live out this dream that we're living in. I mean, that's a great mentality. I mean, he's been doing this for a while, and granted, he's climbing up the ladder, right? Just 2018, he was like this young new guy who came aboard from Central Michigan as the tight ends coach. Completely different scenario. He's the king of the mountain now. So it's great to hear that he has that type of zeal. I wish I had that type of seal. I do a lot of the times, but there's also a lot of times where it's like, oh, I'm sitting on all this information. I don't want to write. I don't know what to talk about. I'm not living the dream in those moments. I'm like overwhelmed and confused. It doesn't sound like he's like that, All right. That's just a little inside baseball. Yes, it does get overwhelming to do my job sometimes. Sometimes it's not always fun, but it sounds like he's having fun regardless. Apparently, I couldn't play on the team. I don't have that attitude. This is probably the most important one because this is what I needed water here. I'm going to cough for no reason. I'm not in a coughing place, so don't worry. I'm perfectly healthy at the moment. Of just, just sometimes you just get that itch in your throat. Anyway, Jesse Minster was asked several questions about Omarion Walker. Singled out the one that I thought was more important, which was, what have you seen from him now that he's been a corner? He said, skill set is tremendous. See, I'm going to have to water it again because I'm going to do it. Not even editing that out. We don't have time to edit it out. It's 9:21. Skill set is tremendous. You're talking about a guy with 6'3" most times, like even in the NFL. You see a 6'3" corner and it's like, okay, what trait's lacking? You know what I mean? Might be he's not as quick as the smaller guys. Maybe he's not as speedy, but he is really, really fast. He has really good feet. He's a little unique in that sense, not to put a crazy, crazy expectation on him, but he has a skill set to play the position and he has the traits to play the position. Now, I have another paragraph in here, whatever. He mentions saying just like Will Johnson, who probably have some early ups and downs, and it's going to be up to the staff. Okay, I'm going to skip all that. So just excited about him and the opportunity he's given himself. Number one, just to get on the field here. He's one of the team's best athletes, so he needs to play somewhere. And we're fortunate that right now it's at the corner position. I mean, it's exciting to think about how good he might be. Because the way they talk about him, it isn't just like, yeah, we think he's going to be pretty good. Right? Steve Klingscale has often talked about Jaden McBurrows, and it was very similar to how DJ Turner and Jamon Green talked about him last week or 2 weeks ago, whatever. And it was just like, yeah, really good. He's going to be awesome. I'm excited to see him. And it's just like, oh, when his time comes. They're not talking about that with Omarion Walker. It's like, he's going to be insane. So exciting. All right, we're running out of time. I'm going to move on here. I asked Jerome Moore about having, I said 3, granted those are the 3 from spring, former team captains, but 4 of the 7 transfers that they brought in are former team captains. So I mentioned AJ Barner, Jack Tuttle, and Drake Nugent. And then there's Ladarius Henderson, who's not yet practicing. So, here is what he had to say, because I said, how does that balance, right? What does that look like? Because these are guys that were the leaders of their team and they're at a new team. What does that look like? He said, the first thing, if they walk in the building, they don't act like they were captains anywhere from a standpoint of they're not trying to boss people around. Because if you do this, I mean, they're all just bought in team guys just trying to do their part to win. And that's all they've been trying to do, every single one of them. And on the field, they've all been awesome. Drake's been a little limited, but he'll be ready for the fall. And then AJ, he's a stud. Jack's a stud. He really emphasized AJ, as in tight end AJ Barner. It's just been so fun to be around them. They've been awesome. So it's cool to have guys like that. And Ladarius, that were all captains. It speaks volumes to the program that we are attracting dudes like that and have been leaders in programs that want to come here. I don't think I really need to discuss that much. It's just they're humble. That's what Michigan needs. They want to win. They're ingratiating themselves into the culture. All right, last one. Others competing at cornerback with Will Johnson out. So this was a bonus. They were trying to wave Jesse Minster off. Kind of got yelled out. He answered it. And then another question got yelled out, and he answered that. Said, we've got a lot of young players at corner. Jaden McBurrows, Miles Pollard, Jair Hill, Cam Calhoun, Keyshawn Harris. All those guys have had really bright moments. We've moved Mikey around a bit, so we're trying to do a lot of different things with them. And then he talks about when guys' time comes. Says, so it's a really good group of inexperienced but talented players. And I look at DJ Turner. DJ didn't play a meaningful snap here for 2 years. Mike Morris didn't play a meaningful snap here for 2 years. Mozzie Smith didn't play a meaningful snap here for 2 years. And it's these guys' turn to go into that second year and third year and put himself in a position to make plays. It's like what I talked about the other day. Next man up mentality. So you got the names. Jaden McBurrows, Miles Pollard, Jair Hill, Cam Calhoun, the 2 freshmen, Keyshawn Harris. So they could end up being really deep if a lot of these guys take that step. They step up, become those guys. All right, we're way over time. Not way over time, but a couple minutes over. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Tomorrow's Wednesday. Not sure what we're doing. I know what I'm doing. I'm closing on a house. We'll talk to you sometime after that, probably at night. Thanks for watching. Thank you for listening. Peace.